Howie Equipment here today. Got a good one. We see a lot of Honda quads come in and they have the electric shifting system, and we've seen oftentimes these go bad, and you can kind of go down a rabbit hole trying to fix these. And so we've got a kind of a bypass system that you can put in here and eliminate all the troubleshooting, whether it's a bad connection or the ECU, all these other things, because we've seen certain cases where you place certain parts and it works for a little bit and then doesn't afterwards. So we're going to take this into the shop with my technician Jeff, and he's going to go through how to fix one of these if you've got intermittent shifting issues. And this is a 1999 Honda Foreman. All right, here at Howie Equipment again with my tech Jeff, and we've got the plastics off so we can see everything. We already kind of mentioned what's going on in the video, but had some issues with our electric shifter, which this is very common on these Honda quads. So Jeff, what have you kind of tested up until this point, and then what's going to be our resolution remedy to get this in?
I've tested the motor, I've tested the switch, I've tested several different connections, all seem to be okay.
How do you test those things first up, Jeff?
Well, you come down here, and here's the connector for the switch itself, and I just put an ohmmeter between it and make sure I got continuity in one direction and continuity in the other direction. This uses 5-volt signal for the switch. It goes back to the ECM, and then that sends the 12 volts down to the shifting motor. I've also tested the shifting motor for the resistance, it's okay. So what we end up doing is we wire in a couple of relays, send power to it through the red, which I've got an inline fuse in it, so it's fused. And then I'll take this lead here and splice into the feed for the switch, so I'm going to send 12 volts to it instead of 5 volts to it. And then these other, the yellow white and the blue white, I'll put one on this terminal and one on this terminal, and that'll be the reversing for the relay. And then this wire here will end up going down through and be wired into the motor itself.
So what's technically the part that's failed, and what is this doing?
Well, it intermittent. You turn the key on and sometimes it'll shift, sometimes it won't shift. They have an angle sensor on them that measures an angle that they've had a lot of issues with. And and then just basic electrical connections. As you can see, all the connectors that are in here, they have issues with electrical connectors too. And to go through and pin out every one of these connectors and try to find something that would be a nightmare. It'd take a lot of time when you can wire this in relatively fast and save all that diagnostic time. And you read online the forums that people have worked on these, and they've replaced ECM modules, and it'll work a half a dozen times and quit again. Shift switches, that'll work a few times and quit again. But this right here is pretty much straightforward and foolproof. Either the relay works or it doesn't work.
So we'll get this hooked on, and then we'll kind of talk about the mechanics electrically, what's happening as we get this in, and how does this work to actually help us make it shift. Because I'm not the technician here, Jeff is, and Jeff's very inclined electrically speaking. And so even some of what he's saying, I'm here all the time, right? That's a little bit above my head. So once we get this hooked in, we'll kind of talk about some of the mechanics behind the wiring and how this is essentially bypassing your system. So we'll check back in once we got this hooked up.
Okay. Yeah, bypasses everything but the reverse lockout. You still have to have the reverse lockout to shift it in to reverse. But a bypass is the angle sensor and the ECM and all the other stuff. It just utilizes the actual shifting switch itself and the shifting motor through the series of relays.
And there's guys out there on the internet, right, that sell little kits like this.
They sell kits like this,
but
yeah.
This is something you can go to the hardware store, you can get these relays, something anyone can do, right?
Yep, anyone can do this.
Okay, all right, well let's get it hooked in and we'll check back in.
Okay. I'm here in front of the schematic for this particular unit, which is a 99. So it does 98 through 2001, and it shows your gear shift switch, your angle sensor, your shift motor, and then you've got the reverse switch and the gear selector. This particular one shows you neutral, reverse, low, and fifth gear. If you up a few years later down the road, they actually show you every gear that you're in, but this particular one doesn't show you every gear. So we're essentially going to bypass this angle sensor. We're going to utilize this through the relays to send power to the shift motor. And then everything else will work that's supposed to work. Alright, I got it all installed, all wired in now. Back to the battery, I've got it fused. Coming up to the relay assembly, which is got tucked down inside here. going to a chassis ground, and then my 2 wires going down to the plug for the motor. And then all you gotta do is hit the up button. It goes into first, and then rock it back and forth while I shift it through in 5. It only shows 5th and 1st. It doesn't show 4, 3, or 2. You gotta rock it, then neutral, and then reverse, and it goes into reverse. Back into neutral. Just as simple as that. It eliminates all the angle sensors, the processor, all that stuff. It's just a relay assembly. And all the relay does is take an input signal, closes it to the contacts, and sends a voltage down a wire to whatever you want it to go to. You got to use 2 relays because one side's got a ground, the other side's got to have power to it, and then you got to reverse it. You're just reversing the polarity on the motor to change the direction for up or down.
Jeff did a great job completing this project for us. We did not go into vast detail on how that works. There are kits out there. If you look up Honda ES Bipass kit, you can find some info. So this is more just kind of sparking for you guys that are really trying to figure this out, leading you to knowing that the kit is the solution on that. What Jeff did, Jeff's so inclined electrically that he just made his own. You know, there are kits out there that are kind of plug and play. They've got some instructions in them, so you know, you can go that route. If you are not a mechanically inclined person, bring it down to Howe Equipment. We're located in Jackson, Michigan. Give us a call, 517-315-4157. We would love to help you out. And until next time, tool or toy, we have it.